They were accusing me of shaking the baby violently, and I would never shake a baby. No matter how frustrated and mad I get, I would never shake a baby, especially if he just fell off the bed. That would just make things worse, and I would never hurt a baby. On October 3rd, I was putting my kids to sleep. I took my baby upstairs to take him a bath. When the bath was over, I laid him down on the bed, put a diaper on him, and I got the other kids ready for bed. And I left the baby in the other room. While I was tucking the kids in, I heard a thud. So I ran to the other room and I saw my son on the floor because he had fell off the bed. So I grabbed him up and I rocked him to calm him down because he was crying. I called my wife, telling her, I was like, babe, you don't look right. And then she comes upstairs, she looks at him, she starts calling 911 at the time. And I was still trying to keep him awake, but he kept going out of conscience. So I noticed that he wasn't waking up fully, so I laid him back down on the bed. And I tried clapping in his face, snapped my fingers in his ears to try to keep him awake. He wouldn't wake up, and then he started turning blue. That's when we went outside, waited for EMS to show up. And when they got there, the cops got there. My wife went in the ambulance to go to the hospital. And I stayed there while they questioned us. But my wife was being questioned at the hospital. They found out that he wasn't my biological son. They're saying that just because he's not my son, my biological son, that I hurt him. I love my son, I will never hurt him. After they accused me, CPS came to the house. They questioned me. Because of all this, they ended up taking all 5 kids away. I've never been arrested. I'm not a violent person. I'm here to clear my name. I will never hurt a baby or no my kids. Authorities were also accusing my wife, Rebecca, and I know her practically my whole life since we've been together 8 years. And I know she will never hurt a baby. She will never hurt her kids. She loves those kids a lot, so she will never hurt any child. And I just want this to be over so we can get our kids back.
My husband isn't a violent man. He never has been. We've been together for 8 years, and those 8 years, he's never hit me. He's never pushed me. He's never showed any violence towards me. That night, I was downstairs cleaning after dinner, and my husband was upstairs with our children. He was getting them ready for bed, and he went upstairs around 8:30 to go take my son a bath, and by 8:30 every night, he's usually crying because he's tired.
Yeah.
And so when he
And how old is the son?
He's 9 months old.
9 months.
I had finished barely washing the bottles, and that's when I heard my son fall off the bed. And when
What did you hear?
I heard the bump, like
A thump?
Yeah, I heard it because the
Just
kitchen.
one?
Yes, it was just one. The kitchen is right underneath. Right underneath our room.
Okay.
And my husband had, I guess, stepped out. I didn't hear him go to the other room, but I guess he stepped out to go put our other kids into bed. He started screaming like, wake up, and he wasn't responding. He was crying for a few seconds after the fall, but after that he was quiet. That's when it kind of concerned me, a lot, to where I had just ran upstairs halfway, and halfway up the stairs you could see into my room. I saw that he was pale, he was unconscious, he wasn't responding to my husband screaming or like just rubbing his stomach. He wasn't doing anything he wasn't waking up. I left my son upstairs with my husband. I went downstairs, called EMS, and they stayed on the phone with me until they arrived.
And they took your son to the hospital?
Yes, the police came, EMS came, they were questioning us. My son was unconscious for 25 minutes until we had arrived into the hospital.
I'm just curious, he was on the bed, he supposedly fell off the bed, right?
Yes.
And what kind of flooring do you have in your bedroom?
Tile.
Tile?
Yes. And when he was unconscious, the only thing that kept reassuring me like he wasn't already dead was his little chest breathing, and he was breathing. When he woke up at the hospital, of course he wasn't normal, but he was acting, he was smiling, he was playing, interacting with the nurses. So I had thought of course he wasn't fine because he was unconscious for 25 minutes. But
sure.
I thought I didn't have to worry too much, and they took him back to get an MRI, of the brain, and that's when they found the brain swelling, the brain bleeding, and then They didn't find a retinal hemorrhaging until 2 days after we arrived at the hospital.
So here's a case of you go upstairs, you run in the bath, you say you put the baby down on the bed, baby flops down on the floor, 9 months old, and just suffers unimaginable injuries. You know, bleeding of the brain, all the symptoms of shaken baby syndrome. Experts, you know, doctors that deal with this all the time say, there is no way that this baby rolled off a bed and sustained these injuries, right? That was told to you,
Yes.
both, right?
Yes.
Police told you this too?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to have an explanation. There has to be an explanation. How did this happen to this child? If you didn't do it, and if you didn't do it, who did it?
I don't believe anybody
Nobody did it.
shook the baby.
So you believe that the baby just suffered those injuries falling off the bed?
That's
I
what we
really do.
believe, yes.
So what happened that night? You tell me what happened.
It was October 3rd, and my wife told me to go put the kids to sleep. I thought it was gonna be real quick. Go lay them down, so I let them on the bed. And as I was tucking in my other 4 kids on the bed, and then I heard a thud, so I ran back to the room where the baby was. I see him on the floor crying, so I picked him up, and he's still crying. So I'm rocking him, walking back to the kids' room, and then I noticed he stopped crying for a while. So I picked him up like this, walked back into the hallway, and I saw he was going in and out of conscience. So I started screaming, wake up, and I call my wife, baby's not looking right. So she comes running upstairs, and then she starts calling 911, I guess, and then I'm still trying to wake him up. I put him on the bed because he's not responding, and he's turning blue. So I clapped in his face, I snapped my fingers in his ears, and then nothing was working, so I put my finger in his mouth. He started biting me, started crying. So that's when I went downstairs and waited for EMS to show up. And then that's when they took the baby and they separated me and my wife. They questioned us. Police showed up. Then my wife took off with the baby to the hospital. I stayed with my other 4 kids, and I was still being questioned by the police. And after that, the next day, I heard they were accusing me of
Baby shaking syndrome.
And
You ever shake the baby?
I never shook the baby. I never will.
Being a young guy with 5 kids, you ever feel overwhelmed?
It's frustrating, but I mean, I would never shake a baby. Like I would never.
But do you ever feel overwhelmed with 5 kids?
Well, it's overwhelming with 5
Yeah.
kids.
Who's Jessica?
That's my cousin.
And she was there that night?
She lives with us.
Let's bring her out.
My name is Jessica. I don't think that he would harm his children. I known them. That's my cousin. I known them for so long. I lived with them for so long. I just think this is a whole accident turned into a nightmare.
Do you really believe that baby suffered injuries from falling off such a short bed?
Yes, I really do.
Okay.
There's no other way he could have got those injuries.
Let's find out. So they ask you, did you ever witness anyone else physically abusing your 9-month-old son? You answered no. Did you ever witness George physically abusing your 9-month-old son? You answered no. Did you cause any of those injuries to your 9-month-old son by abusing him? You answered no. Did you ever shake your 9-month-old son? You answered no. The results came back all the same, and they came back that Rebecca told the truth. We asked him, are you lying that on October the 3rd that Rebecca's 9-month-old son fell off the bed? He answered no. He told the truth. Did you ever shake Rebecca's 9-month-old son? You answered no. You did not tell the truth.
Oh my God, George.
Did you cause any of those injuries? Well, I think you have an obligation to let your wife hear all your results. Did you cause any of those injuries to that child by physically abusing him? Okay? So we're crystal clear on what the question is. did you cause any of those injuries to that child by physically abusing him? He answered no. He did not tell the truth. The best way to save yourself is the truth. And when the police find out about you appearing on this show and your results and your wife's results, you're going to be in some handcuffs, my friend.
I don't say nothing. I just don't want to. He knows I'm not. He knew I wasn't going to be with him if it came out that he was lying.
And you know what? I mean, listen, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a doctor. But I do know human emotion. And I think deep down inside, he does resent that that child's not his. Whatever happened between the two of you, he might not like the fact that you slept with another man, that every time he looks at that baby, he thinks about you with somebody else, and maybe sometimes he loses his temper. But there's not disputing anything here. This guy hurt your child terribly.
You're going back to your mom's or something. She can't stay in my house no more.
Is that it? Get the hell off my stage. But if he's not willing to tell you, his partner, that, yes, I snapped, honey, I did this, I need help, and he wants just to keep covering up what he did, then shame on you if you ever go back to that guy. Good luck to you. Do you want to tell your story on the Steve Wilkos Show? Visit the link in the description to get my help.